I'm sure you've all followed the issue of global climate change. How we have to reduce the amount of carbon emissions into the atmosphere to deal with this. Between now and 2030, the International Energy Agency says that almost 60% of those reductions are going to come from energy efficiency. If you're a business and you sell something into a marketplace and you have a 60% market share, you will have a very, very strong business. So energy efficiency, in terms of global climate change and dealing with it, has a 60% market share. But, and I mentioned this sort of contrast, you know, that isn't what you hear about, is it, when you hear about global climate change? The answers. You hear about renewable energy. You hear about, was mentioned a few minutes ago, carbon capture and storage, taking the carbon out of the emissions of power plants and sticking it down into the ground. You hear now nuclear energy. You hear many different answers, some of which are very, very exciting. But I'll point out, every single one of them cost multiples more than improving the energy efficiency in our homes and offices and businesses. Often, many times more, 4 or 5 times more. Yet that's what mostly we hear about. Many of those, I'm not saying in saying this, that renewable energy and other technologies aren't a part of the answer, but I think it is always important to make sure that people understand the foundation to the future in energy is not production. We already produce a lot of energy. That's our problem. The foundation is improving energy efficiency. And so, as the president took office, of course, right before that, we had an economic meltdown. And it was interesting because, you know, part of that economic meltdown was taking an idea, sort of deregulating financial markets, and it worked, you know. Economic activity picked up. And so let's deregulate them more and more and more until, well, maybe we got a little too far. And whenever you take an idea and you push it out to its limits, often what you'll have is you push it a bit too far. And of course now, President Obama and his administration and Congress are dealing with this economic issue. And you read in the paper, beginning to put in place some new regulations and approaches to sort of try to get a little better control, you know, maybe a little change is good in financial markets, a little different business model, a little different way of doing business to hopefully reap the benefits of a liberal financial approach, but make sure we don't have another disaster. Well, whenever, you know, something big happens like this, it changes the way people think about the world. And it allows you to think anew. And one of the areas that the Obama administration was already concerned about, and many Americans was, you know, if we look out in the future in dealing with global climate change and our energy security problems, of course, here in Europe, it's gas from Russia and the former Soviet countries. In our case, it's oil imports. So you have security concerns, you have this environmental concerns, global climate change. It's a very extremely difficult problem. It's the biggest problem mankind's ever faced. To change over from using high carbon energy sources quick enough to low carbon took us 150 years to develop the energy system we have now. And the next 40, 50 years, we have to change to another system. That is the biggest, that will be what you will be doing during your lifetime. I won't be here. You will be. It's the most serious thing mankind's ever faced. And you get to do it. So if President Obama, who's a very smart guy, thinks a lot, has a lot of people around him that have been thinking about these issues, there's always been an alternative answer on the table. And that is to change the energy business model of the United States. To begin to aggressively put in place policies to move away from high carbon fuel towards low carbon technologies and improved energy efficiency. How it will all play out, nobody knows. And there's a lot of research going on, and maybe there'll be some development, there will be developments of new technologies. But, and this is something I think to always remember, you will often hear someone talk about, oh, this technology, we're researching this technology out here. And in 30 years, if we're successful, it will solve the problem. Cold fusion was one a few years ago. You don't know about that, but that was one of them, and there's been many. There's no silver bullet. There isn't. It's highly unlikely there's going to be a silver bullet. Okay. A silver bullet means one option, one technology that's going to save us, that's somehow going to appear out there. Maybe there's a little 0.5% chance. But are you going to bank your future on the 0.5% chance that something might happen 50 years from now? I wouldn't do that. Maybe it'd be good to have some insurance on the side. Efficiency, renewables, beginning to move in that direction. This is not going to be easy. Believe me, it is not going to be easy. So, as the Obama administration began to put together, we decided we needed a stimulus bill. Okay, just like Franklin Roosevelt and the New Deal and the Depression had the Public Works Administration to put people to work, many other programs. They even hired artists to paint things like this in government buildings. The Obama administration decided, let's put a down payment on this vision of a clean energy future. We have this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We have to spend the money, so let's try, to the extent possible, to put an investment, a big amount of money down to move forward on these issues, which we've done some things, but only very slowly. And this actually built on a tremendous amount of work that had gone ahead. I think probably you read the newspaper some and you realize that the United States, for about the past